I am tired of the white tears. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
And I can promise you, it was my ancestors that built the White House. So listen, we are gonna be in your face. We are gonna be on your asses. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder.
All right, guys, today we're going to be responding to none other than Jasmine Crockett. Once again, she's a U.S. representative from Texas, and she is always running her mouth. This lady always has something to say. So today we're going to say something back. Now, recently she appeared on CNN to talk about mediocre white men and mediocre white tears fueling the fight against diversity, equity, and inclusion, and apparently fueling a fight against the education of Black people. Yes, you heard it correctly. That's what she claims. Let's watch the clip.
Happening right now. I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel a way and why you can't make me doubt who I am is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. This is why they don't want us to have education.
Y'all, there is no evidence that Jasmine Crockett has had to work 10 times harder than anybody around her. In fact, every time I hear her speak, it's giving me quite a lot of evidence to the contrary. I don't know how she got to her position as a U.S. representative with some of the arguments that she's making, and it clearly dictates to me that she doesn't very much like white people. And I've seen this evidenced by many other statements that she's made about whiteness, about white people, about their reaction to diversity, equity, inclusion, which, shocker and newsflash, if you are white or if you are any race, you should be against diversity, equity, and inclusion and the initiatives that are being ushered forward by people like Jasmine Crockett and others who share this diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. It is not actually promoting inclusion. In fact, it's promoting segregation and preferential treatment, which we've spoken about in relation to Jasmine Crockett many times on this channel now. Now, she says, I'm so tired of white tears on this subject matter. Well, what about comments and criticism from people who aren't white, who also have issues with this system that you're setting up? Because clearly you're not ready to listen to people who, I guess, have a different skin color than you. Will you listen to people who have the same skin tone as you? Is that the metric that we now have to meet to be able to give valid pieces of criticism to our representatives? Let me know. You can see that deep down, she is seething. Deep down, she harbors resentment towards white people. And it's probably because an agenda that was sold to her, an ideology that she was taught, that she's now carrying forward with her in her time as a U.S. representative. But guaranteed with what I'm seeing, she did not work 10 times as hard as anybody else around her to get where she's gotten. I honestly don't know how she got there. And there seems to be some sort of false sense of confidence in her intellect that she carries with her every day. And maybe that's how she got there. Maybe you are 10 times as self-confident, and wrongfully so, as those around you, and that's how you became a U.S. representative. We now have another clip. This is from her very same CNN hit, where she talks about violent crime in this country.
I mean, this is very simple. We right now have a white supremacist that is sitting in the White House. He is backed up by other white supremacists. And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason, they sit and they serve at the pleasure of the president. They are the ones that were there on January 6th, tearing our democracy down physically. And now we have them tearing us down right here from within.
Okay, we're going to get to her stat about 80% of violent crimes in just a moment, but what evidence does she have to prove that Donald Trump is a white supremacist? You clearly couldn't look at his constituents and dictate that. I mean, he overwhelmingly had one of the most diverse voting bases of any Republican in decades now. This means we had Black people, Hispanics, Asian women coming forward to vote for this man at record rates. Are those people also white supremacists in some way, shape, or form? Not to mention the abundance of work that Trump has done for people outside of his race, outside of his maleness, that would clearly indicate that he is not some white supremacist. But I guess she's not willing to contend with any of those arguments, because this seems to be the play card of the left, to just immediately label something as racist, as an extension of Nazism, of white supremacy, as a means of shutting down conversation. She goes on to do that with January 6th, which just looking back at January 6th, on that now infamous day, the people there, what they were up to, white supremacy was most definitely not one of the first notes that I got from that gathering or anything that followed. But I guess we're just going to stamp that label on anything that is associated with Donald Trump as a means of painting him as some sort of Hitlerian bad man orange. I don't even know at this point. It's just the same verbiage that is used over and over and over and over as a means of labeling this guy as the most evil man to ever hit the face of the earth. Now, to her, what stat? 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are from white supremacists. I had to look into this because I'm like, what? Obviously, that stat does not sound correct at all. What she's referencing is a stat that came out of the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which I'll give you 2 blinks for that, 2 blinks for the source. And what they're referencing is extremist violent crimes. So these are violent crimes that also have, shall we say, a note of extremism to them, meaning that the person who is responsible for that violent crime is claiming to be a part of an extremist group. Now, we can take a look at these data points here. It says mass shootings in the United States accounted for most extremism-related fatalities last year in the country, with over 80% of those murders committed by white supremacists. Data released by the ADL showed on Thursday. And I believe this is actually data from 2022. And if you look at the data points and the data set that they used to come up with this 80% number here, they looked at 25 murders that were linked to extremist causes, and 21 of those 25 murders were linked to white supremacists, as you can see in this article. So her using that massive statement that 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are from white supremacists is from a data set of 25 murders, 21 of which were linked to extremist causes. Now, should that make you call into question Jasmine Crockett's intellect? Yes, it should. Should it also make you call into question the intellect of the ADL? Yes, it should. And the data points that they're cherry picking in order to paint a certain picture of this country and the motivations behind certain crimes in this country, yes, it should. And if you're at all moved by what Jasmine Crockett had to say about 80% of most violent crimes in this country being performed by white supremacists, I urge you to look into FBI stats or your local law enforcement statistics on violent crime. And if you really want a racial breakdown on violent crime, specifically things like aggravated assault, battery, armed robbery, murder, things of that nature, you're going to be stunned to find out that these things are not 80% done and afflicted by white supremacists. I'll let you guys fill in the blanks on that because I don't want to be called a white supremacist for giving you the actual information and telling you the truth on that one. Now, we have one more clip here, and we've actually responded to this clip in the past. And this was Jasmine Crockett being invited on CNN once again, which CNN, what are you doing to defend her stance on DEI? And this one really hit home as somebody who's living in Los Angeles right now, who experienced, albeit from the outskirts, the Palisades fire, the Eaton fire, the crazy wildfires that obviously rampaged and ransacked this entire city. And this was her defense of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the time of that disaster.
So let me be clear. Because you are a woman, or because I know that some of the right has been sharing these photos of the fact that I believe that the fire chief may be a woman or something, that has nothing to do with it. We are looking at qualifications. What diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been about is saying, you know what? Open this up. Don't just look at the white men. Open it up and recognize that other people can be qualified. And the fact that we want to, at a time when people are dying, decide that a country of immigrants is failing or people are dying because the same very people that built this country, because the last time I checked, y'all didn't say that anything was wrong with the White House. And I can promise you, it was my ancestors that built the White House. So listen, if we have been good enough to build this country, we are good enough to serve and die overseas, we are good enough to serve in other ways. And the fact that people actually decide that they want to engage in public service, whether it's sitting in Congress or whether it's serving on the fire department or the police department, should not be an issue. The fact is, stop trying to act as if only white men are the ones that are capable. Because right now, you're sitting at a table with 3 very capable black women.
What is happening? What is happening? I have the same reaction now that I had back then. What are you talking about? I heard so many nonsensical arguments, just one after the other, stacked on one another. And you know what? I cannot find a better example for diversity, equity, and inclusion not really working and not really picking the most capable, because what are you doing in this position? What are you doing on CNN debating these things with the types of arguments that you're making right now? What? I'm sorry, what is going on? I've got to say, she's setting us back. And I know you guys don't like when I say us in reference to black people or people of color or whatever, but she most definitely is. This woman has no class, no respect, no basis for the arguments that she's making, and yet is so loud and so overconfident. And, you know, that's sort of the very nature of DEI in a lot of ways. It is misplaced confidence in things and in facets of our society that truly do not matter when it comes to getting the job done and doing the job correctly. So, oh my goodness, Jasmine Crockett, do we have some work to do? I have to remind you guys, this woman's a lawyer. Somebody gave her a law degree. And she used that law degree to also do a bunch of pro bono cases for Black Lives Matter, which should tell you everything you need to know about this woman. Every day I'm astounded by how certain people get into certain positions of power. And if you don't think that diversity, equity, and inclusion and our focus on racializing everything and sort of stratifying all of our society based on race, if you don't think that's contributed to this, I don't know what to tell you. But it is the very reason we are here, and it's the very reason that I have all this content from Jasmine Crockett to respond to. And that's my response thus far. I don't know if she's going to call this white tears or white mediocrity. I guess half of me is crying over the fact that this is the reality that we have to live in. And this is somebody who I have to say with my whole chest is a U.S. representative. My whole chest. Whew, we have work to do, guys. But those are my thoughts. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know how you feel about this. I'm disheartened. Things are bleak. I cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. But guys, let me know. As always, if you disagree with anything I said in this video, do get out in the comments down below, but do so respectfully. We encourage healthy debate on this channel. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every day. And I will see you guys tomorrow, because I am a capable black woman and I deserve this position and I deserve to be at this table. Bye, guys.